And a TGIF, everybody. Welcome into the First Call podcast. He's Scott Shapiro. I'm Jeremy Plonk, representing First Bet and Express Bet. We want to send out our best wishes to our buddy Jeff Siegel. Hopefully he is on the mend, and looking forward to having Jeff back with us in due time. But certainly send out your best wishes to Jeff this weekend if you can. We've got some stakes races for you at the spa. It's opening weekend at Saratoga. Not a lot of big glamour stakes races yet, Scott, so far in the Saratoga meet. I guess when you run the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, the 4th of July Racing Festival, some of the races early in the Saratoga meet were picked off last week already on the stakes schedule. But we've got the Diana and some others to talk about this week.
Yeah, you mentioned Schuylerville was usually the traditional opening day feature. That was run last weekend. The Sanford was usually run on this card along with Diana. That was run last weekend as well. So a little bit lighter on the Saratoga stakes calendar, as you mentioned. But the Diana race I got to attend a number of times. Always enjoyed it. Kind of one of the bigger, if not the biggest, before the Breeders' Cup for that division, especially in the States, obviously. But that's the big one this week. This weekend at Saratoga and everywhere, pretty much.
Philly AmeriTurf division in the spotlight, and we've got a track making its debut on the First Call podcast on a fairly light schedule around North America, but we're actually going to take the fans through the entire stakes schedule here for our podcast in just a moment. For those of you watching on YouTube and on X, be sure to like, share this out, and comment on it to help build our audience for the First Call podcast. For the benefit of those of you listening on our traditional audio channels, here are the 8 stakes races Scott and I will handicap over the next half hour or so. To Saratoga, we go on Saturday, July 12th for the Bowling Green and the Diana, both scheduled for the turf. To Gulfstream, it's not the old Summit of Speed anymore, but the Azalea, one of the original Summit of Speed races, part of some consecutive weekends of stakes sprints going down at Gulfstream Park. To Woodbine, we'll go for the My Deer Stakes north of the border, our first of 2 trips to Canada over the weekend. We'll also go to Monmouth for the Blue Sparkler, the turf sprinters in action there. A couple of stakes at Colonial Downs where it's opening week there. They got going midweek. We've got the Miss Disco and the Start and Askra co-featured on the Saturday card. And our first ever trip to Century Mile in Greater Edmonton, Alberta, Canada for the Century Mile Handicap. Funny thing about Century Mile and the Century Mile Handicap, the race isn't at a mile. It's at a mile and 70 yards. So we'll add 70 yards to the Century Mile and we'll have some fun with it. First time handicapping there. I will say this, Scott. I mean, you're sending me to some weird places, Edmonton, etc. Jeff's had me all over the world getting video on these podcasts in the past. We've had replays in German, replays in every language you could possibly think of. So there are no bounds to what we will handicap and gamble on. So let's get after it for this Saturday at Saratoga. If you're playing the races today at the spot on Friday, as we release our podcast each and every Friday, they are off the turf except for the stakes race. The Coronation Stakes is on the turf at Saratoga as of the recording of this podcast. $118,000 carryover pick 6 at the spa going into the Friday card. Bad news, though, 80% chance of thunderstorms, a heat index of 97 degrees in the forecast for Saturday at the spa. Now, I would assume that the Bowling Green being a grade 2, the Diana being a grade 1, they'll do everything in their power to keep these 2 races on the turf for Saturday. But we've seen at the spa in recent years, they may reschedule them for another racing day sometime. The great stakes races. So we're going to handicap like we're going to be on the turf. And I would assume if we are on the turf, Scott, we're going to have some softer conditions probably to deal with on Saturday. So let's get after the Bowling Green. Race number 8. How do you see it shaking out?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the one to beat in here is 6-5 favorite, number 7, Farbridge, coming off that neck defeat to Deterministic and Integration in the blanket finish in the Manhattan. That was a race won in wire-to-wire fashion by Deterministic. Better competition. Farbridge, certainly the one to beat. 2 wins prior to that coming in. Got a lot going for him, but not his price and not really his record at Saratoga. He's 1 for 4 with 3 thirds. Obviously, the last third, pretty forgivable, but did have a pretty good trip. But 8 for 17 overall. That's not a great ratio of winning at the spa, making the price a little bit tough to swallow. Yeah. I like a horse that has proven himself over this surface. Now, hasn't had a lot of experience over, of course, with Given it, if that's the case, but did run well in the 1 start. And that's number 2, El Razine, 2 for 2 over the turf course here. His only 2 wins. Dylan Davis has really ridden the turf and pretty much everywhere a lot better over the last several years or few years than he has, his normal baseline. And he fits this horse very well. Look for him to save ground and hopefully make a run. I don't know if there's a ton of pace in here for him to chase, but I think El Razine with the inside trip at 8-1 is a pretty decent bet.
This seems like it could become a jockey's race. There's not a lot of pace in here. It's a mile and 3/8. They'll probably walk anyway, even if there was pace in it, knowing the Naira jockey's on the grass. But Farbridge might default and find himself on the lead, which might be a weird spot for him because he hasn't run a lot of races on the front. He did go wire to wire in the Sword Dancer last year, but you take a heavy favorite out of their comfort zone and put them somewhere where they're not used to being. I wouldn't want to take a short price on him as well. In the Sword Dancer, you got 8-1 when he was going wire to wire in there. If you're going to get a big short price on him, which he's 6-5 in the morning line, I kind of think he wants a horse or two in front of him and wants to kind of stalk and pounce as his best trip. So very interesting how this pace may shake out. There's not a lot of speed in here. Maybe Corruption from the outside under Javier Castellano goes to the front, and that's probably the best news for Farbridge. If Corruption can cross his face and go to the front, then maybe you could see Farbridge sitting second in here and get a little bit better trip. Scott's on the 2 in here. El Razine, well drawn. Todd Pletcher, Dylan Davis, 8-1 shot to start off the picks here on our podcast. So we like to see that in the morning line. Let's go to race number 11 next up on the program at Saratoga. It's the Diana Stakes. I believe she was the goddess of war, and I guess her top general has been Chad Brown because he's won this race, 8 times in the last 9 years, 3 straight, something like that. This race typically runs through Chad Brown. He's got the 4 Excellent Truth. He's got the 5 Dynamic Pricing. But neither one of those will be favored. That role is going to go to the even money morning line choice on David Aragona's morning line. She feels pretty. She's just sort of been a win machine of late. She's a neck away from winning 5 straight. She's won 4 in a row. Do you like her back at a short price, Scott, or are you going to go with Chad Brown in here? It seems to be one or the other when you're handicapping the Diana.
Yeah, she feels pretty. Is the clear one to beat, and you'll see in my late pick 4 hit it, split it blog up on both websites that I think that she's certainly an A. I'm not really excited to try to beat her, but she's never really been in a tight spot along the inside. The one recent start she had when she was down on the inside was the QE2 Cup where everything opened up for her perfectly. She didn't get caught waiting, and she made them pay that day in her what I thought was her best race to date. But again, at that price, you're kind of looking for reasons to not bet, certainly to win. And if you're using in a horizontals, you want to make sure you're using prices somewhere else if you're spreading more than one deep. I think Dynamic Pricing is the one that has a shot, though, in here. I think we've seen kind of what we're going to get from everybody else in the field, whereas I do think there are some significant upsides still from this daughter of Knight of Thunder, the Irish bred, because she's just been better since she's come back off a significant break from Chad Brown. Kind of some of Chad's fillies, they peak early and they're good, better at 2 and 3. Some of them take a little while to develop. Right. I think we might be looking at one that's a little better to develop. Again, Dylan Davis had success over this course, so big Dylan Davis fan, I guess, this Saturday.
She's got a lot of European pedigree, top and bottom to like it soft, and she's got the running lines to prove that, winning the Edgewood last year at Churchill on Oaks Day by a half length, and then winning the Just a Game on the Belmont Stakes festival programs at Saratoga over this course, going a mile last time out on yielding turf. Let's go back and take a look at her last win. This is Dynamic Pricing, now 2 for 2 on Softer Going.
Excellent Truth is starting to unwind, and Dynamic Pricing cuts the corner just inside of her as they come to the 8th pole. It's still Kehoe Beach with a 3-length lead, chased by Special One, and a continued bid from Dynamic Pricing. Dynamic Pricing, Special One coming at Kehoe Beach on both sides, and Excellent Truth. Dynamic Pricing takes the lead and pulls away. Dynamic Pricing wins the Just a Game. Excellent Truth.
Now, Scott, when you talk she feels pretty, she won on yielding turf last time as well in the New York Stakes, but was rather workmanlike in doing so. I don't know that was necessarily her preferred footing, and she's got to kind of go against tougher competition than what she's run against. I know she's a 3-time Grade 1 winner, but if you look at the running lines for She Feels Pretty, as good as she's been visually in most of her races, you'd be hard-pressed to find a horse that she's beaten that you would feel great about in another Grade 1 against this level of competition. I would think that Excellent Truth, that Dynamic Pricing, both of the Chad Browns. Be Your Best, the horse for Safi Joseph, coming off a win in the Gamely. I think all three of those stack up with anybody that she feels pretty has beaten to this point. So maybe she's a short price that we can beat against. But boy, I like her. She's a fun horse and one of my favorites in training because of that turn of foot she has when she's really on her game.
Without question. And the blinkers, I generally don't love it when a horse has been pretty successful and they make an equipment change like the blinkers going on. Off might be a different situation, but it's proven to really take her game to the next level. She's always finished well. But yeah, the last race is a little discouraging when you combine it with maybe, being on the inside, which might not be your preferred trip. So probably worth taking a chance against. But I'd say if I had gun to head, I'd prefer She Feels Pretty over Farbridge if I had to bet on one of them to win.
As you mentioned, this is part of the late pick 4, which has a hit and split with First Bet and Express Bet this weekend. 1 million first rewards points are up for grabs in the late pick 4 at Saratoga. Each racing day here of the opening weekend, Saturday particularly, we want to look at those 1 million point hit and splits at the spa this weekend. If you hit the late pick 4, not only do you get your pari-mutuel winnings, but you'll share 1 million first rewards points with just other players at First Bet and Express Bet who also hit that wager successfully. So you can redeem those points for wagering credits, handicapping products in the gift shop, handicapping swag, and all kinds of things like that. So those first rewards points, take advantage of them, build them up. You got 1 million of them on the line in the late pick 4 this weekend at Saratoga, which includes the Diana Stakes, race number 11 at the spa on Saturday. Let's go back to our schedule here and talk about what's next around the country over this weekend's handicapping tour. We'll go to the Azalea Stakes next up at Gulfstream Park. 89 degrees in the forecast, 40% chance of thunderstorms late afternoon for Gulfstream Park. We'll handicap this one for a fast track, but if you get a little wet track, maybe want to adapt to that. Again, 40% chance of thunderstorms tomorrow at Gulfstream Park. Race number 10 on the card, 7 furlongs, the Azalea Stakes. Again, this is a race where we've seen several of these horses in action recently. The 1, 2, 5, 6 finishers, all out of the Game Face Stakes, are back at it in a rematch. Love You Morgan won that one that day over Andrea. Love You Morgan, to me, my top choice in here. I made this the Express Bet race of the week. I really like the way this one finished up. Got a big, brisk, late pace figure in that one. And I think this race at 7/8 of a mile might trip up some of the other speed. So I'm on the one in here, Love You Morgan. Who do you love, Scott?
Well, Love You Morgan to me definitely was very impressive finishing last out. If she gets another, decent setup, which she should, she's going to be tough to hold off. But do you want to bet, horses coming from well off the pace to win twice in a row, now at a shorter price at Gulfstream Park in a one-turn race on the dirt? That was where I kind of leaned to the other filly that I think has a shot in here, and I think it's a 2-horse race, and that's Anna's Promise, who cuts back in distance. Now, if this is over and off track, I think I might lean towards Love You Morgan a bit more because the last race, at least at Kentucky Oaks, was a little discouraging, obviously, against way better company than she's facing in here. And she's kept good company, JP, and she's 2 for 3 over this surface. I think sprinting might be her game when all is said and done. Promises Fulfilled was versatile, but definitely a sprinter in the end. And looks like they got a good claim with this filly, being able to get her for $50K last year in the winter at Gulfstream. So Anna's Promise stalking just off the pace on the turn back to hold off Love You Morgan.
Those are the two in this race that we're taking. Anna's Promise, as Scott mentioned, a 2-time winner over the track. Let's see her at her best.
Is Ruth, and they're at the top of the stretch. Blueberry Hill throws up the white flag as Justin Queso has now hit a narrow advantage. Fighting right back on the rail is Anna's Promise. These two for an 1/8 of a mile confrontation. Anna's Promise emboldened by the challenge and takes the lead again. Justin Queso is back to second, and Anna's Promise is edging clear. Anna's Promise to the first finish line under Luis Saez to win by a 1.5 lengths. Justin Queso was second. It's closer.
That was her March allowance win, going 2 turns, but as Scott said, on the turn back, one to watch in here. I think it sets up for one of these horses who can finish, and again, on the cutback, Anna's Promise absolutely should be in the mix, in the hunt, in the stretch. Let's go next to Woodbine on Saturday for the My Dear Stakes. That'll be race number 8 on the card, north of the border. The My Dear Stakes, $125,000, 5.5 furlong, 2-year-old fillies here, one of the first stakes races of the year at Woodbine for the 2-year-olds. We've got a couple first-time starters in here. Lightly raced group. Many of these horses have just the one career start. Number 1, Super Diva, has run twice in here, but she's not the super one that you're going for in here, Scott. You're going with number 7, Super Sporty, and I think this is a horse who debuted last time out at 75 cents on the dollar, drew the rail, and didn't get away too good, but finished up pretty well. Kind of a trip handicapping play here for you. So we're going to give the fans a chance to see this one. We're going to start off at the starting gate with Super Sporty. You'll see that one get away a little tardy, and then how that she ended up paying the price for that in the stretch.
On their way. Best into stride near the inside, Mathematical, and vying for that lead is Pageant Queen, and over in the center, Miss Maxine. That trio got away by a length and a half to Nays, and then came Super Sporty, who came away from the inside and is gaining on the top pair quickly and tracked along by Wolfberry. Last of all is Classic Discovery. Racing out in front is Pageant Queen by a length, and Super Sporty's gone up within a half. Super Sporty on the outside, putting the nose in front of Pageant Queen, and going for home now, Super Sporty. They're out by 2 lengths to Miss Maxine, and over on the outside, Wolfberry not doing enough, fighting right back Pageant Queen, and Pageant Queen has gone to the lead again and drawn off. Super Sporty had the chance, but it's Pageant Queen really looming as the winner here. Down the outside, Miss Maxine coming on for second. What a wonderful win by Pageant Queen.
All right, Scott, make your case. Why does this one rebound?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm always forgiving of a horse that breaks from the rail, period, on debut, a young horse. And then you saw she broke slow, and it took her out of her game or what she was used to. And clearly they wanted to show speed that day. And so she rushed up, or, the horse has speed, whatever that might be. And look, Pageant Queen is 3-1 on the line in this race, was almost 20-1 that day. What has really changed all that much? I guess we know that Pageant Queen is better than maybe the public thought. But I don't think much has changed for Super Sporty. You don't lose much in defeat there. Now, I don't know if we'll get 20-1, and there's obviously the wild cards. You've got 2 Mark Cassies in here that are, if they're live and serious fillies, they're going to be tough, both DJ stable horses. You've got, I guess those are really the only 2 I'm, looking at thinking they are superior fillies potentially, because, look, again, this filly was, like you said, 75 cents on the dollar on debut, and it's been less than a month.
And she's worked since, and it was a good work, 47 and change for a half mile. So Super Sporty, the one to beat. And you always hear the cliche, but there's some truth behind it. Horses can be expected to make a solid improvement between that first and second career start, and just being outside of some horses and not down against the rail should help this horse get out of the starting gate. Super Sporty, the one to beat, perhaps can turn the tables on Pageant Queen. And again, the 2 X factors in here for Mark Cassie, the 5 Pina Colada, the 6 Abdul. They are Quality Road and Tappet first-time starters that cost $300,000 and $350,000 respectively, and debuting in Stakes Company. The $125,000 My Dear Stakes, race number 8, Saturday at Woodbine, where the forecast is for 86 degrees, unseasonably warm there. Just a 16% chance of precipitation, maybe a Friday night thunderstorm, but we're on the all-weather surface for the My Dear Stakes, so conditions should be good for racing at Woodbine. To Monmouth we go on Saturday, probably the best forecast in the country, only an 8% chance of rain, 81 degrees, partly cloudy, the forecast for Oceanport, New Jersey on Saturday. That's good news because we've got turf sprinters going in the Blue Sparkler. I always say that the most underrated turf sprint circuit in America is Monmouth Park. I love these horses when they go somewhere else. These are races that, 100 granders, 75 granders. They're not huge purses, but these are really good quality turf sprinters when they ship out somewhere else, and you can get some good prices on them. We're matched up at Monmouth with this field of 9. You've got a couple in here that are pretty familiar with each other. Top 3 finishers from the Stormy Blue Stakes at Laurel Park, all rematched in here. They shift scene from Maryland, where they're dark right now, at Laurel. So some of those horses went to Monmouth. A lot of those horses went to Colonial Downs. How do you see the Blue Sparkler, Scott?
Yeah, good point on the Monmouth horses being move-ups potentially when they ship out of town. And I think we found a filly that likes it on the turf sprinting, and that's number 8, Roja. There's plenty of others in here that we know like it on the turf sprinting. But she moved up considerably for Graham Motion in the 2 starts since moving to the sod, dominating a field at Laurel on May 25th, and then coming back off short return to take on Stakes Company and winners for the first time. she put away the other speed in the Stormy Blues, which you referenced, and looked like she was opening up to a victory. But the 7 horse who's right inside her today, Got a Brazil, ran her down. But the fact that Roja buried the other speed, I thought was very encouraging. I don't see a ton of speed in here for jockey Jamie Rodriguez to deal with. So I'm gonna wire him out here, hopefully, with number 8 Roja.
All right, it's a rematch from the Stormy Blues. Let's get Dave Rodman's call and go back to that one at Laurel Park.
Roja getting away, opening up 2 lengths, and here comes Gata Brazil with a nice surging on the inside. Gata Brazil is motoring. Gata Brazil moves to second, taking aim an 1/8 of a mile left to go to Roja. Gata Brazil closing with each and every stride of the outside of 16 to go. Gata Brazil, relentless run of the outside. Roja's trying to stay. Roja, Gata Brazil down the line together. Finish line wherever it may be at the second wire.
Dave Rodman trying to find the finish line there. It was Got a Brazil by a nose at 13-1 over Roja, who was $1.30 there. So you got 10 times the price on Got a Brazil. Now they're going to be similar priced on the tote board, and maybe we get Roja to kind of get a value play this time after being bet down as low as 6-5 last time. Interesting group in the rematch coming up on Saturday at Monmouth. The new face in here is Miguel Clements and Asqual. This one's coming in from New York, a horse who broke the maiden at Saratoga last year, coming off a 4th place finish in the Stakes Company and Turf Sprint ranks at Aqueduct back in May.
Take
so
the A-train.
Start off. What's that?
The Take the A-train. I remember that race. It was actually a good field as well, but I no clue what the route was unless it was taking the A-train in New York City.
So Asqual, one to watch in here, of course, for Marin riding, and of course riding for Miguel Clement in this spot. So good looking group in race number 6, the Blue Sparkler at Monmouth Park. Now let's shift gears from Monmouth. We go down the I-95 to outside of Richmond, Virginia, and we're going to head to New Kent for Colonial Downs. We've got a pair of stakes races for you at Colonial on Saturday to talk about. Race number 5 is the Miss Disco Stakes. Race number 9 is the Start in Askra. Both for Virginia bred and registered sired runners. So we've got a group of restricted company stakes horses going in the 5th and the 9th. The Miss Disco will start things off 125 grander. 7 furlong stakes race here for the 3-year-old fillies. Miss Disco, Scott, you're up. Who do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to a little bit of a trend here in these Maryland/Virginia restricted stakes races. I'm going to try to show speed. I don't think there's a lot of speed in either of the races we're going to discuss, including the Miss Disco. Number 4, Mila Candy, is a filly that has faced open company throughout her career thus far. 2 races at Aqueduct, a victory and a 2nd place effort of 36-1 to kick off her career, and then tried stakes company in the Jersey Girl last out. She was down on the rail in that spot and only lost by 5 lengths to open company after just an okay start. The blinkers go on. You get some class relief. You get off the rail. I think it's wire to wire for number 4, Mila Candy.
She'll have to take on a field that includes Winfinity, who was a stakes winner of the Keswick Stakes at Colonial Downs last summer. That was in the career debut, and you'll have to wait to the end to see if Winfinity can repeat that performance with a last-ditch effort.
For the stretch in the Keswick. Dio Canisa off the turn just in front of Sporting Lady. Rapido Rosa down the center. Sail the 7 Seas looking for a seam in between runners. Now is starting to charge home. And winding up down the far outside, Sciara Fire is putting in a really good bid right down the center of the track. Final furlong time now. Sail the 7 Seas comes after the lead. Safe Trust back into the bit toward the inside is rallied up to second. Down the far outside, Sciara Fire. Also Winfinity's really starting to roll. Sail the 7 Seas. Here comes Winfinity charging the first timer. Winfinity up in time at 11-1. Sail the 7 Seas.
Ben Curtis will be aboard. He'll be vying for the top rider of the meet, no question there, throughout the summer at Colonial. Start in Askra Stakes is race number 9 on the card. We've got a field of 9, a little deeper group in this one. 7/8 of a mile, 125,000. These are the 3-year-old colts. We had the fillies up first in the Miss Disco. The colts go in the Start in Askra. Barbadian Runner's a horse who's kind of danced all the dances in the Mid-Atlantic. I mean, there is no break in his form cycle since last August. He just comes to run every week, it seems like, for Henry Walters, and he's put together a nice streak or a nice career so far, making over 300,000. Never seems to miss fire. I like this horse. Forrest Boyce rides Barbadian Runner, but I'm not so sure it's 7/8 of a mile. I want to take too short of a price 5-2 in the morning line. I think this horse is kind of a better middle distance sort. Who do you like here in the start of NASCAR?
Yeah, I agree, and it's partially because of what I think you're right about is the distance, maybe wanting a bit more ground. But I think maybe you would have been able to overcome it if the pace was honest in here. Same with another horse that who I wouldn't have liked as much and don't respect quite as much in this race. 3 Studley Do-Right, who finally got some time off. I feel like we've analyzed him 32 times already this year. He's got 12 starts. But I'm going to try to go gate the wire now. There's 2 potential speeds in here that aren't super speedy. You've got 8 Slam Notion to the outside, who didn't break well from the inside last time, but overall has shown speed. And then you've got number 1 Saxton, who's got the inside draw. And this horse comes off a win over the Laurel main track in a race washed off the turf. But he's got some dirt form in here. You know, I don't have a super strong opinion in this race, but I do think that the likely favorite Barbadian runner is a bit vulnerable for the reasons we mentioned. And I'm hoping it's Saxton at 9-2 for Brittany Russell and her husband Sheldon that can get the jump.
Yeah, this is one who's been in the stakes ranks last year, but that was before the Russell claim, and maybe can kind of catch these horses now on an upward swing. Let's go to Saxton's win last out at Laurel and Allowance Company before the rise back to the stakes.
Run. Elvis himself, Saxton, and here comes Great Heavens on the outside to make 3 across the track. Bold Diversion, El Divino Nino, Jolly Boss. They race for home. Saxton, Elvis himself, and Great Heavens on the far outside. Bold Diversion widest and driven. They turn in, and it's Saxton just in front. Saxton from Great Heavens second. Elvis himself and Bold Diversion, a furlong left to go. Saxton, Great Heavens trying to hold second. From outside is Bold Diversion. Here's Saxton with Bold Diversion trying to gain ground, but Saxton's too much. Saxton to win by 2 for Bold Diversion. Great Heavens third, and Elvis himself.
No problem with a wet sealed track there, and that might be the case that we're looking at Saturday at Colonial Downs. Forecast for a 70% chance of thunderstorms. Thunderstorms also predicted on Friday night, so we may be looking at a wet track Saturday at Colonial. High temp of 90 for New Kent, Virginia. Horse who likes the main track, doesn't mind it muddy at Colonial Downs is number 6, Reggie Runs Rogue. 2 for 2 over the track there for trainer Justin Nixon last year. Second off the layoff, now steps back up in class from the stake or from the allowance ranks up to the stakes ranks, but also leaves open company. I kind of like Reggie Runs Rogue on the form cycle play here. Was a second off the layoff winner, a second time starter winner after the debut win. So this horse can run fresh, can run second off the layoff. I'll go with number 6, Reggie Runs Rogue, and give him his Heisman Trophy back.
Great name. Great name. Love that name. Yeah. Love that name.
Reggie Runs Rogue, my top pick there in the starter.
Man, Reggie was awesome. It's a shame that he was so dynamic. What a shame.
Yeah, I'm still not happy about the Orange Bowl of 2003 when he ran all over the Oklahoma Sooners.
Oh, yeah. See, I lived out in Southern California in San Diego when it was the Reggie Bush, Matt Lyon.
That was 06, I believe it was down there. Yeah.
Yep, Vince Young. Yep, that was an incredible football game, actually.
All right, let's go to the Century Mile in Greater Edmonton for our final handicapping destination this week. First time ever on the podcast, we're going to handicap Century Mile. It is a 1 mile oval there, but they run the Century Mile at 1 mile and 70 yards to give the runners a little bit more run into the first turn. 79 degrees, clear and breezy, the forecast for Edmonton. And I'll tell you what, that sounds pretty good compared to some of the other forecasts we see. 97 heat index at Saratoga. 79 and breezy sounds pretty good on Saturday night, Scott. Century Mile post time is going to go Mountain Time, 7:45, so 9:45 Eastern for race number 7 on the card from Century Mile. Field of 9 in here. Who'd you go with?
Well, I think Apprehend on paper is the one to beat. And what I found most noticeable about this race was how many sprinters are stretching out to the mile 70 yards in this $75,000 race. And, tried to maybe come up with something a little bit creative in terms of pedigree that could stretch out. But I ran in the holes. Now, Apprehend is, like I said, the one to beat. 7 for 14 has a win over the surface, but hasn't raced since October when it was his 4th win in a row in the Premier Handicap at Hastings. But I don't trust him off the bench. I'm going to try the only other horse that I see with kind of some good route form, and that's number 1, Riverside, who is 2 for 9 over this oval. I'm hopeful is third off the layoff, is ready for a career best effort. And my first ever public selection, or private for that matter, at Century Mile.
Are you saying there's a grain of salt to be taken here?
Grain of salt to be taken here. I'm trying to think.
Take these picks with a grain of salt.
Oh. Whoa, I lost my hat. It was so funny. Yes, I almost gave a disclaimer on the Century Mile, but I felt that would be a little over the top.
I remember Apprehend back in his debut for Renee Amascua winning at Oaklawn, and I put this horse kind of on my countdown of the crown list back in the day. He was an Arrogate back in 2021, winning early in the Oaklawn meet on New Year's Eve, and I thought this is one to watch here. He never went long until recently against a little softer competition, but now that he's gone long, he's 3 for 3 since going long in at Hastings on a couple of races there, including winning the Grade 3 Premier last time. Video we showed you there was from the Spangled Jimmy handicap, where I believe 4 of the top 6 in there are all back in the rematch. A race won by It's All Good Man. It's All Good Man, a winner in 2 of his last 3 starts, and got the victory that day as the 3-1 favorite. So Century Mile, one of the first ever goes that we've had in Western Canada here. I think we've done a race or two from Assiniboia maybe on the podcast over the years, but I don't think we've ever done anything. I know we've never done anything from Century Mile, so now we can check that one off the list. It's your bucket list, I'm sure, Scott. There's probably 4 or 5 more tracks you want to check off.
I don't know a lot in Edmonton. I remember they had the CFL team. I know the Edmonton Oilers because I used to follow hockey when they had Gretzky and all them against the Flyers, if you probably remember those days maybe as well. And Connor McDavid. That's about all I got. So now I got a little more Edmonton, and it does sound like a nice temperature up there. I'll switch with them for now.
Riverside, soon to be your favorite horse at Century Mile, I can tell already. Let's get him a victory and get home with that one on Saturday night. I want to remind you again, we've got the 1 million points hit and split for Saratoga's late pick 4 each race day this weekend, including Saturday. That includes the Diana handicap, so be sure to check that out. For more handicapping assistance, be sure to go to the ExpressBet blog section, as well as news.first.com, and you can get our written handicapping analysis of the weekend, including the Meadowlands Pace, the big harness race coming up on Saturday. Alsa Maglia will have your picks lined up for that one, so be sure to check that out tomorrow, the Meadowlands Pace. A lot of good action around the country. Hopefully the weather cooperates at Saratoga and other parts. And next week when we reconvene for this podcast, we will have Del Mar squarely in the crosshairs as Del Mar opens its racing meet next week. So a lot of fun to be had with that. I'll be back on Tuesday with the It's Official podcast to recap this week. Maybe we'll go back to Century Mile and recap what we saw in the Century Mile handicap. Never know, so be sure to tune in Tuesday. Scott, I'll give you the final word here on a fun podcast.
Yeah, we really covered the, I wouldn't say the globe, but the continent well today. We went all the way from Western Canada down to Southern Florida. So long trip if you made that trip literally. Yeah. Neither of us will do so, but best of luck to everybody. And looking forward to the weekend of racing, and Saratoga's Diana, of course, headlining that.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to you next week.